family of Marlon Ochoa Lopez has been fighting to make sure her killers are held accountable. On April 23, 2019, the pregnant 19-year-old was lured to a home by the promise of baby clothes before she was killed. Her baby boy was cut from her body.
Hey! So today I have for you a true crime case. I will also be doing my makeup at the same time, and I also have a word in Romanian. But before we get started, I just really want to apologize to everyone, guys. I hope I'm not like confusing you or anything. I seem to be jumping from one YouTube channel to another. Like I explained in my community post on my newest channel, somehow I keep having issues with the YouTube channels I created, the true crime ones. And originally, like I mentioned in quite a few of my videos, I did start on YouTube a few years ago. I think it was like 2020, yeah, or 2019, I can't remember exactly. But my original channel kind of got in trouble because of the 2020 period and me talking about it. And so I had to create a new channel just as a backup in case I lose my other channel, so I don't lose my videos. Then I got issues with the other channel as well. And so I created a new channel, which was the Cat's True Crime and Makeup channel. And it seems that now my very first channel, it's okay now. The status of it seems to be okay. So I would prefer to, just keep one channel and focus on one channel, because it's very, very difficult to manage 3 true crime YouTube channels. So yeah, that's why I've been saying, if you want to subscribe to my original YouTube channel, I will be carrying on publishing videos on there, and maybe keep these other 2 channels as a backup, just in case something else is going to happen again with my original channel. It's a headache, it's very frustrating, because it's impossible to manage this many channels on my own, and also I have no idea where I stand. It seems that I'm the only one that this is happening to, in the sense that I keep opening a channel and then a new channel and then a new channel, and somehow all of these channels, they start having issues, although I'm not doing anything that breaks the policies, but somehow, YouTube considers this me breaking some sort of policies, which I have no idea of. But on my original channel, there were kind of a lot of controversial things that I was talking about, so I'm guessing that could have been the reason why. But fingers crossed, I won't be having any more issues. So anyway, yeah, that's why I didn't really post as much on my Cat's True Crime and Makeup channel, because I didn't even know how I'm going to be able to handle everything. So I had to, really think about how I want to go on forward. So yeah, okay. So my original YouTube channel is Catalina Lupsa. If you search on YouTube, you will see it first, because that was my original channel. So that's the one I'm going to be using from now on. Okay. A lot of babbling here, and I am so sorry about that. I felt like I needed to give you an explanation, because I didn't want you to think that I forgot about all of you guys. I didn't forget. I'm not forgetting. I really appreciate everyone being here and being patient with me throughout everything that has happened in the last year. It's just insane. So I just want to thank you so much for your continuous support. And now let's carry on with the Romanian word for today, which is sarcină. 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 Well done, guys. You just said pregnancy. And a warning, guys, from the beginning. This is just gruesome. This is just horrendous, horrific. In Chicago, in the spring of 2019, scary flyers should have been placed just about everywhere, warning young pregnant women to watch out for Clarissa. But no one would expect the truly awful atrocities that would soon happen. The mystery turned horrific when missing teen, mom-to-be, Marlene Ochoa Lopez, was found strangled and her unborn baby cut cruelly from her body. 19-year-old Marlene vanished after leaving high school when she was tricked to a house through promised free baby items off of Facebook. As her frantic family searched, the killers cared for the extremely sick newborn as their own until suspicions uncovered a conspiracy led by 46-year-old Clarissa Figueroa. I also want to let you know, guys, that not all of this information in the video might be accurate in terms of dates and names and such, because somehow I have no idea what happened with this case. I tried my best to research everything, but I keep on finding conflicting information online. So anyway, I tried my best to keep the information as accurate as I possibly could. But just, you know, to advise you, some of the things might not be accurate. Like I said, some dates and some names as well. And also, guys, please, 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 if you do get free baby stuff or free anything on Facebook, even when you buy something, please just don't go to anyone's house or don't give your address to anyone. Even if you sell stuff for people to come pick it up at your address, just make sure that you set up a meeting in a public space, because honestly, you never know who you might come across. So, yeah. Marlene Ochoa Lopez was born on 16th of November 1999 in Mexico, and the family moved to the US when Marlene was 2 years old. She came from a working class family, and obviously they went to the US to, you know, have a better life. Her parents have been identified as Gloria and Arnulfo. Marlene attended Chicago public schools, where she would have interacted with students from many different ethnic backgrounds. At the time of her death, she was a student at Latino Youth High School. It seems that her family provided stability, care, and support. Marlene was part of a loving, tight-knit family who supported her journey into adulthood. By all accounts, Marlene had a typical teenage life, attending high school, and although Marlene was quite young, she was married to her young sweetheart, and they were excitedly preparing for the upcoming birth of their son, which would be their second child. She lived in Chicago with her husband, Giovanni Lopez, and their 3-year-old son. Marlene had met her husband, Giovanni, at a Chicago park a couple of years back, and they fell in love. At the time of her murder, they had been happily married for 3 years. Marlene had chosen the name Hadiel for her unborn baby boy. Marlene had dreams of becoming an engineer, and she was studying hard to graduate high school. She and Giovanni were getting the nursery ready for their baby boy, buying diapers, and looking forward to becoming parents to a newborn. According to her friends and family, Marlene was a kind and giving young woman. Tragically, she was lured to Clarissa's home under the false offer of free baby items. On April 23, 2019, 19-year-old Marlene left her high school and she headed to a home on Chicago's southwest side to get the free baby clothing. The 9-month pregnant teenager never returned. She was strangled to death and her baby boy cut from her womb. Behind the offering of free baby items was 46-year-old Clarissa Figueroa, who had told her own family that she was pregnant despite having her fallopian tubes tied. When her adult son unexpectedly died, Clarissa allegedly hatched a plot to steal a baby. Her Facebook offer drew Marlene to her house. Once inside, Marlene was attacked. Police found coaxial cables with Marlene's hair still attached, suggesting that she had been strangled. Forensics showed that Marlene fought back against her attacker before dying. For weeks, Clarissa kept up the charade that the gravely ill newborn was her own baby, even creating a GoFundMe for the baby's medical expenses. Clarissa Figueroa seemed like a devoted single mother who was struggling to make ends meet. She cared for her disabled adult daughter, 24-year-old Desiree, in their small second-floor apartment, having lived her whole life in the neighborhood with family nearby. Although from other sources I found that they were actually living in her mother's basement apartment. So again, conflicting information. I'm not sure if it was the second floor apartment they were living in or it was the basement apartment which belonged to her mother. But this hairdresser, Clarissa, apparently hatched a plan driven by years of hardship since youth that led her and her daughter Desiree to commit an unspeakable crime. Born to Mexican immigrants, as far as I know, Clarissa was one of 5 children who clung together through poverty and their strict Catholic upbringing. Even though she was a smart child, Clarissa lacked opportunity. She dropped out of high school to work odd jobs and help her siblings. In her 20s, while working as a hairdresser, Clarissa had 2 children with 2 different fathers. A son, who she called Xander, he was the first child, then her daughter Desiree. But single motherhood further strained her means. Doctors discovered a defect in the newborn Desiree's brain that sadly led to disabilities and the need of lifelong care. So, mother and daughter scraped by, with Clarissa being the sole provider. Desiree's disability meant that she depended fully on her mother. Clarissa actually found some stability with her boyfriend, 40-year-old Piotr Bobek, when they began a relationship. But it became quite a violent, decade-long relationship until even more tragedy struck. In 2018, Clarissa's son Xander collapsed and sadly passed away from an infection at 26 years old. Clarissa was devastated, which only led to her having a very bitter life. Then, according to reports, she falsely claimed to her family that she was pregnant, just before her horrific plan emerged. With Piotr's help, Clarissa pretended that the baby was hers until DNA proved that the honor belonged to the woman Clarissa strangled for daring to have the baby she so desperately wanted. Rage, envy, grief, and her daughter's disability fueled an inhumane act. Clarissa, Desiree, and Piotr lived together in the apartment, in Clarissa's mother's apartment or the apartment she rented. I'm not quite sure. The household was dominated by the controlling and erratic personality of Clarissa's. Even though she had lived there most of her life, surrounded by family, poverty and hardship really changed her for the worst. Her daughter Desiree clung to her mother, entirely dependent on her because of her disabilities. Shy and socially isolated, Desiree rarely, if ever, left the apartment. Desiree's disabilities stem from complications, like I said, uncovered at birth in 1995. Doctors discovered fluid accumulation in her brain due to an intraventricular hemorrhage suffered as a newborn or perhaps late in pregnancy. This type of brain bleeding often results in permanent brain defects impacting cognition and motor control to varying degrees. In Desiree's case, she faced severe lifelong disabilities. As a baby and a toddler, she probably missed major physical and intellectual milestones. She may have struggled with basic motor skills like holding up her head or sitting up. Learning to walk and talk was undoubtedly delayed a year or more. By the age of 2 or 3, when most children show independence, Desiree lacked basic self-help abilities like feeding or dressing herself. Cognitively and socially as well, she remained totally dependent on others' care. Desiree's father died when she was young. School presented new hardships for the family. Desiree qualified for special education services and therapy for her disabilities. But still, by her teens, basic reading, writing, and math skills remain limited. As a teenager and young adult, Desiree stayed isolated at home with her mother and relied fully on Clarissa to survive. She endured seizures, physical limitations requiring braces, and cognitive gaps preventing independence. This lifelong helplessness created an inseparable bond between mother and daughter, with devastating consequences later on. Clarissa did seem to love and care for both children in her own twisted way. Clarissa's son, Xander, said that even with all of his mother's flaws, he did remember fun childhood moments like them dancing together in the kitchen, and although she was sometimes abusive, it didn't really break their bond. So in the end, this was, as you can tell, quite a damaged families, but they were also quite close. Clarissa's living boyfriend, the quiet Polish immigrant Piotr, seemed to tread carefully, kind of swallowing all of Clarissa's moods and irrational demands. Piotr had immigrated from Poland a few years back. He met Clarissa while working at Advocate Christ Medical Center as a handyman. Clarissa's adult son Xander was a patient there until his death in 2018. After connecting at the hospital, Piotr moved in the apartment with Clarissa and her daughter Desiree. Neighbors would actually describe Piotr as a quiet, unassuming man who largely kept to himself. He seemed frequently under the direction of the controlling Clarissa in their relationship. Even though Piotr had a steady job as a handyman, they still struggled financially, which weighed heavily on Piotr. Clarissa would also bring some money in, but only occasionally when she would be working as a hairdresser from home. Their living conditions gradually declined over the decade Piotr lived with Clarissa and Desiree. He would placate Clarissa's bad temper with alcoholic drinks to smooth tensions. But bitterness and resentment simmered under the surface. When Clarissa's son Xander died in 2018, Clarissa spun into a deeper depression and hysteria. Piotr buried himself in his work, while Desiree, she tried comforting her mother. When Clarissa claimed that she was pregnant in late 2018, Piotr posted excitedly about the good news on social media supporting Clarissa's fake pregnancy. But the thing is that 46-year-old Clarissa would claim that she had her tubes tied years ago, which meant that she was unable to have any more children. Neighbors even reported that her behavior was strange when she was supposed to be pregnant, and when she claimed that she was pregnant. She would drink, she would smoke cigarettes, and overall, she just had an unusual behavior for a pregnant woman. So, how did Clarissa then get pregnant? According to Assistant State Attorney James Murphy, Clarissa uploaded a picture of an ultrasound on Facebook by December 2018 that she claimed represented the child she was carrying. A few months later, in February, she shared a photo of a crib and the baby's room on a Facebook page which donates baby supplies to underprivileged families. She inquired on the page again the following month, posting, "Where is the May Mama's at? And who is due in May?" At the time, Marlene was 7 months pregnant and she was one of the people that Clarissa connected with. Marlene has said on social media that she was trying to find a stroller, a baby stroller, and some other baby supplies. Offering her clothing to the baby, Clarissa said that they should have a private chat. On April the 1st, 2019, Clarissa told her daughter Desiree that she needed help in killing a pregnant woman and taking her baby away. Marlene accepted Clarissa's offer of baby items after they connected on the Facebook group, and she visited Clarissa at least twice in 2019, according to police. The second and final visit took place on April 23rd, 2019. At around 10:40 a.m., Marlene texted her husband that she felt like she was going into labor, so he asked if he should pick her up, but she asked him to wait. He assumed that Marlene was still going to pick up their son from daycare after finishing classes at her high school. At around 6 p.m., Marlene's mother received a phone call from Marlene's husband because Marlene never turned up at the daycare to pick up her son. Marlene's mother knew that her daughter had a tough pregnancy, particularly in the first 5 months when she felt quite sick, so she thought that maybe Marlene went to a hospital. She knew her priority would be to pick up her son first, but she thought that her daughter was just not feeling well. So she and her husband, Marlene's stepfather, called and visited hospitals, but they couldn't find any trace of Marlene. Relatives went to the Chicago Lawn District to file a missing persons report, but they were told that Marlene had to be missing for 24 hours first. Marlene's father, Arnulfo, was in Iowa when he got a phone call from his ex-wife, Marlene's mom. He last saw his daughter on Christmas, but he spoke to her almost daily on the phone, through Facebook Messenger or by FaceTime. Marlene sent him photos and videos as her pregnancy progressed. This time, he felt that something was just not right. Gloria, Marlene's mom, and her friend Maria Castro made another round of trips to hospitals. Around midday, they went to the Ogden District Police Station to again try and file a report. But they were told that Marlene's husband has to do it. So he arrived at the West Side Station later in the day and filed a missing persons report. Police would not publicize the case for 2 more days, even though Marlene was near her due date and she would be considered at high risk. On April 25th, her third day of calling hospitals, Gloria reached someone at Mercy Hospital who said that a patient with her daughter's name was in the emergency room undergoing a C-section delivery. She rushed to the Southside Hospital, but when she got there, she was told that there was no one at the hospital with that name. A worker apparently got confused, but Gloria said that she actually took this quite personally. She thought that they were just making fun of her. The family continued to focus on hospitals, believing that Marlene was admitted somewhere and she just wasn't in a state to reach them. But Gloria started getting scared that someone actually kidnapped her daughter. She couldn't believe that her daughter would just run away, particularly since Gloria was expecting Marlene to live with her after the birth. Marlene was calm, responsible, and it just wasn't like her to disappear. The family turned to social media for help and people sent back screenshots from a Facebook mothers group that Marlene had joined looking for baby items. Arnulfo, Marlene's father, didn't think that anything was suspicious about these posts because his daughter interacted with many people on Facebook. Even so, Gloria turned the information over to detectives. These posts would eventually provide detectives with a vital clue. The following day, at around 8 a.m., Gloria received a call from someone claiming to be part of a cartel in Mexico. The caller said that Marlene had crossed the southern border and she was taken to Tijuana. The caller demanded $1,000 and Gloria, at first, she actually got scared because she knew that in Mexico, when someone is kidnapped, bad things happen. But her husband told her not to believe it because if it would be true, they would be asking for more money. Regardless, the family passed this information as well to police and they were just told it was likely a scam. Just after 2 p.m., the Chicago Police Department issued a high-risk missing persons alert. It said that Marlene was 9 months pregnant and she was last seen in the area of 2001 S California Avenue, which I suppose is south, probably, in the Little Village neighborhood, wearing a gray sweater and sweatpants with a maroon shirt that had a Latino Youth High School logo on it. Marlene had been missing for nearly 72 hours. Police wouldn't say why the department waited so long to send out an alert. I'm guessing that probably, for one, she was an immigrant. Secondly, she was an adult also. So they were probably thinking that maybe she just, ran off with somebody, whatever, even though she was like 9 months pregnant. But anyway, they didn't give it much importance. The family handed over a phone that Marlene used, which her husband was able to unlock. While waiting for the detectives to get back to them, relatives and friends met at Castro's beauty salon in Little Village and passed out flyers. By then, the family received a few calls from people claiming to have spotted Marlene, so the group went to those neighborhoods. They wanted to bring attention to the case and also put pressure on the detectives because they still didn't know anything. Marlene's husband, who speaks primarily Spanish, found himself often communicating with police officers who just didn't speak the language. He said that he was not given the direct phone number for a detective on the case, and the one that he had went to a general police line. He tried communicating with them, but sometimes he couldn't, obviously because of the language barrier, so they would have to wait for a detective who spoke Spanish to get there. So he decided to hire a private investigator who actually spoke Spanish, signing him up for 35 hours of work. On May the 2nd, the family holds the first press conference. By that point, Marlene had been already missing for more than 9 days with no word of any progress from the police. So the family decided to hold the news conference at Lincoln United Methodist Church on the west side to call for Marlene's safe return. Her mother told reporters that she believed someone was holding her daughter against her will. Her husband said that she never disappeared before. Julia Rooney, who met Marlene when she worked as a social worker at her school, also spoke at the conference. Afterward, Julia said that she received a tip in the form of screenshots of the Help a Sister Out Facebook group for women who were expecting. The tipster said that a woman named Clarissa Figueroa responded to several posts from Marlene and it just bugs her. So she shared everything with the detectives. On May the 5th, desperation grew as Marlene's due date arrived. Gloria's suspicion was growing that her daughter was kidnapped and her captor was waiting for her to give birth. What else could they want from her? The family said they heard nothing from the police. On that last visit from Marlene to her home, Clarissa wrapped a cable around Marlene's neck from behind while she was sitting on a couch, and Desiree was keeping her distracted with a picture album. Clarissa told her daughter that she was not performing her job when she placed her fingers between her neck and the cable. So Desiree actually pulled away Marlene's fingers from the cable around her neck so that Clarissa could strangle her. According to the prosecutors, Clarissa then got on top of Marlene and strangled her for roughly 4 to 5 minutes. Marlene's baby was removed from her womb by Clarissa after Marlene's death. Clarissa then dialed 911 claiming she had just given birth and reported that the baby wasn't breathing. While waiting for an ambulance, a neighbor actually saw Clarissa on her porch with a baby in her arms with blood on her hands and her t-shirt, but the neighbor said it was odd that Clarissa actually didn't have any blood on her shorts or, trousers as a sign of her just having given birth. When the first responders arrived at the address, the baby was blue. The baby was then taken to hospital where he sadly died 2 months later. Both of them were admitted to hospital, but Clarissa didn't really exhibit any symptoms that would indicate that she just had a baby. Whilst in hospital, Piotr Bobek, her boyfriend, visited quite frequently. Documents show that Piotr signed hospital papers listing himself as the father of the baby named Xander by Clarissa. This actually made it believable that Clarissa had just delivered the baby. Piotr clearly played a hands-on role in the elaborate scheme, intending to separate Marlene's baby from his rightful family permanently through deception and concealment of her death. While the full truth of Piotr's personal involvement in the actual killing remains legally unclear, his part in aiding the web of lies is obvious thanks to the court documents on record. During the murder, Piotr was captured on CCTV camera buying the coaxial cable used to strangle Marlene. However, no evidence directly ties him to the actual murder. Piotr also helped hide Marlene's body in the trash can and supported Clarissa's lies about the baby belonging to her. Though his lawyer later said that his client had nothing to do with the murder, prosecutors said in 2019 that he was found cleaning a carpet with bleach and a hose when police arrived with a warrant to search Clarissa's home.
Really cannot express how disgusting and thoroughly disturbing these allegations are.
The chilling story of Ochoa Lopez's disappearance and subsequent murder rattled the city of Chicago back in April of 2019. Police say the 19-year-old was just 2 weeks away from giving birth when she was lured to a home in the Scottsdale neighborhood by Clarissa Figueroa, who was offering free baby clothes over Facebook. According to investigators, Ochoa Lopez was brutally murdered by Figueroa with help from her daughter, Desiree.
She assisted her mother strangling Marlon.
The teen's body later found at their home, while the unborn baby, police said, was cut and removed from Ochoa Lopez's body. For days, Clarissa Figueroa had claimed the infant was hers, bringing him to Advocate Christ Hospital following complications. After a DNA test proved it wasn't, cops moved in and arrested both mother and daughter along with Clarissa's boyfriend, Peter Boback, who they say helped clean up the crime scene.
The author was charged with concealing a homicidal death. On May the 7th, Brandon Dinihan, deputy chief of detectives, said that detectives for the first time saw screenshots of the Facebook conversations between Marlene and Clarissa, even though the family said that they had shared these screenshots with investigators a few weeks earlier. According to the screenshots, on the day that she disappeared, Marlene arranged to pick up clothing and baby items from Clarissa. Clarissa's story was actually that her daughter, she gave birth and she had 2 baby showers and she had too many things and she just, wanted to share her wealth with other people. So detectives, they went to Clarissa's home and knocked on the door when they were met by Desiree, who said that her mother recently just delivered a baby and she was at Advocate Christ Medical Center in Oak Lawn. Before leaving the neighborhood, detectives discovered Marlene's Honda Civic just half a block away. At that point, detectives had a pretty good idea of what had happened. But detectives didn't really discover the car on their own, I don't think so, and it will make a bit more sense later on. While they were closing on their suspects, a newborn baby was found in an alley on the northwest side. Gloria, Marlene's mother, said that the family rushed to Lurie Children's Hospital hoping that this baby was Marlene's. At a news conference the next day, Marlene's husband spoke about the baby in the alley and the agony that his family was going through, hoping that the baby they found was Marlene's. Later in the day, a detective called Gloria and said that the baby in the alley was not Marlene's, but there was some good news. The family was told that the detectives found Marlene's car, but even so, the family kept getting false lead, which led to false hope. That evening, someone called and reported seeing Marlene at 59th Street and Kedzie Avenue asking for money. Around the same time, Chicago police visited Christ Medical Center and spoke with Clarissa Figueroa, who denied that Marlene visited her home the day she disappeared. However, she and the baby had arrived at the hospital on that same day. The baby had no brain activity and remained in intensive care. The hospital actually allowed Clarissa to make decisions about the baby, even though she was examined and showed absolutely no sign of having given birth. The hospital didn't say why they kept dealing with Clarissa at that point. I feel like this foundation is too white. Then a social worker reported a doctor coming into an office and asking, should this mother be making decisions on the baby because it may not be the baby's mother? The social worker didn't know what the doctor was talking about, according to an investigative report done later. On May the 9th, the day began with Marlene's family still not knowing that the police believed that the baby in the hospital was Marlene's and that the baby was alive. They gathered with supporters in the neighborhood where police found Marlene's car, posting flyers and speaking with neighbors. According to Gloria's friend, Julia, someone knocked on Clarissa's door and placed a flyer there after no one opened the door. They didn't know who Clarissa was at that point. There was no police around either. As the family kept searching, the Illinois Department of Children's Services of Children and Family Services was notified about the circumstances surrounding the baby and placed the baby in protective custody. That afternoon, Marlene's husband Giovanni was told about the baby and he underwent a DNA test to determine if this was indeed his baby. This would be the first time in more than 2 weeks that the family actually had any idea what may have happened to the baby. But Gloria, after what they went through with the baby found in the alley, was not very hopeful. Detectives still didn't share their suspicions about Clarissa Figueroa with the family or what might have happened to Marlene. On the 10th, Emma Lozano, a community activist, received a call from an anonymous tipster who gave her the address of the Figueroa family. The caller said that Marlene was seen going into this home. The family passed the caller's tip to detectives, but they heard nothing back about the investigation. The family was getting very desperate. They were going to go to Clarissa's house. They were giving all of this information to police and seemingly police did nothing and police told them nothing. Julie Contreras, an immigration activist, received screenshots of a GoFundMe page apparently posted by Clarissa to collect money for a newborn baby. The page included a photo of the baby hooked to life support and the following post. This is the most difficult time in their life. Already having suffered the loss of her son Xavier less than 2 years ago, Clarissa is hoping this is one small thing we can do to help them lay their baby to rest next to his brother. So they were already expecting that the baby will die. When Gloria saw the screenshots, she was just exhausted by all the tips and she didn't want to put any more weight on yet another possibility. 4 days after submitting the DNA for testing on May 13, Giovanni found out that yes, indeed, he was the father of the baby at Christ Medical Center. So, finally, DCFS turned custody over to him. For Arnulfo Ochoa, the news that his grandson was found was bittersweet. He didn't know where Marlene was. On May 14th, Chicago police arrived at the Figueroa home in the 4100 block of West 77th Place with a search warrant. They found Piotr Bobek using bleach and a hose to clean a rug outside, according to prosecutors. As they approached him, Piotr dropped the bleach and hose and he just walked away. In the corner of the backyard, police found a garbage can and they lifted the lid. And what they saw was simply gruesome. And they were not expecting that at all. The body of a woman was found inside. The cable used to strangle her was still wrapped around her neck. There was evidence to show that a baby had been inside her womb. Julie, the activist, sent Gloria some photos of police officers at the Figueroa home. She told her to be strong because they found some really ugly stuff. She didn't say that Marlene was dead, but that they found things which are really going to hurt. It was nearly 15 hours before the family was told that the body was that of Marlene. Uniformed police officers arrived at Gloria's doorstep and radioed for another officer who spoke Spanish. The officer, whom the family never met before, approached Gloria and only said, "Está muerta." The family was given the address for the Cook County Medical Examiner's office where the body had been taken. But it was closed by the time they got there, so Gloria just ended up sitting on the sidewalk and crying. The next day, Arnulfo had to be held up by relatives as he walked into the medical examiner's office to identify his daughter. As he left, he said, "We came to this country to give a good life for my daughter, but there is bad people in this country too, who have taken her life. She had a big future." Even though she was married, she was carrying on with her studies to give a better life to her child. On 17th of May, the suspects, 46-year-old Clarissa Figueroa, 24-year-old Desiree Figueroa, and 40-year-old Piotr Bobek, appeared at a hearing at the Leighton Criminal Court building, where prosecutors detailed the plot to kill Marlene and steal the baby from her womb. How Clarissa announced a fake pregnancy, posted fake photos, and traded posts with pregnant mothers through the Facebook group. She had asked, "Who is due in May? Where is the May mamas at?" Marlene was the one who answered and took up Clarissa's offer of free baby clothing. Prosecutors also said that Clarissa and her daughter planned to kill Marlene during an earlier visit to their home on April the 1st. Remember the first time that Marlene went over? But they were actually stopped by the daughter's boyfriend, by Desiree's boyfriend, who actually threatened to call the police. So they invited her back to the house more than 3 weeks later. As Marlene was sat in the living room looking through a photo album of Desiree's brother Xavier, Clarissa strangled her, then cut the baby from her womb. Then Clarissa called 911 and said that she had just given birth at home. Paramedics who responded said that the baby was blue and suffered brain damage from a lack of oxygen. It was on April 24th, 2019 that Giovanni, Marlene's husband, reported Marlene as missing. However, officials stated that it would take them almost 3 weeks to piece together what exactly happened and to discover Marlene's body in a garbage can in Clarissa's backyard. Police didn't actually connect the disappearance of Marlene and Clarissa's ill baby until 7th of May, when friends of Marlene's provided police access to her Facebook account. At that point, they saw that Marlene and Clarissa chatted on the day of Marlene's disappearance. After they searched the area, they discovered Marlene's car nearby. Está muerta. She's dead. That's all the police officer said to the family of Marlene 3 weeks after she went missing. When police found the body of a woman who appeared to be their daughter, the family waited hours before uniformed officers arrived at the doorstep. None of them spoke Spanish, even though detectives on the case knew that the family spoke very little English. An officer was dispatched from a nearby police station. He approached Gloria, Marlene's mother, and said those only 2 words, then turned and left, according to the family. They would have to wait even longer to learn that police had already arrested 3 people in a plot to steal Marlene's baby by strangling her and cutting the baby from her womb the day she disappeared. In interviews with the Tribune, Marlene's mother and father talked about those days of despair, those days of panic, grief, and confusion, about the silence from the police, about prank calls and false leads, and finally solid clues from friends and strangers from Facebook and GoFundMe pages. She's with her baby and with God. They are good now, Marlene's mother said.
Well, this mural here in Pilsen really remains a tribute to the pain that continues to be felt by a community. The family says this afternoon it's a pain made worse because of the state's findings from its investigation that they say denies them justice.
It's garbage, and I tear it up because it's a piece of nothing.
There's outrage from the attorney and family of Marlene Ochoa Lopez after the hospital that cared for the murdered woman's baby says it's been cleared of any wrongdoing by the Illinois Department of Public Health.
To have the hospital make the statement that they have been exonerated is false.
The family has accused the hospital as well as the Chicago Police Department of mishandling the case. According to a June 12th letter written to Advocate Christ Medical Center, after the investigation, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services determined that Advocate Christ Hospital was found to be in substantial compliance in relation to the Giovanni Lopez case. A brain-damaged baby Giovanni Lopez died Friday after lingering in intensive care nearly 2 months after police say the boy was cut from his mother's womb. The 9-month pregnant woman had been lured to a Southside home to get free baby clothes, but instead was murdered. The state launched an investigation in May after Clarissa Figueroa, her daughter, and Figueroa's boyfriend killed Marlene Ochoa Lopez and tried to pass the baby off as their own, calling 911 claiming she had just given birth to the baby who wasn't breathing.
Queremos justicia. We want justice. Justice for my son, justice for my wife.
The family says the hospital made serious errors when, according to the state investigation, it failed to call authorities even after a doctor treating the child questioned if Figueroa was really the mother.
This is a biased decision they made.
In a statement, a spokesperson with Advocate Christ Medical Center wrote, "Our hearts and prayers continue to be with the Ochoa Lopez family, whose courage and grace have drawn the admiration of our entire organization. Little comfort for a grieving family, hoping for justice."
They were negligent, and now they are re-victimizing this person.
Now, what the family wants is they want the head of the Illinois Department of Public Health to resign. They also want a brand new investigation, one that they say is not biased. The offer from the state investigation does say that there were some sort of deficiencies, but they didn't outline them. The hospital says that it's going to do, right now, from this point forward, a better job of communicating with authorities. In the meantime, that family is preparing for the baby's funeral.
During her interview with the investigators, Clarissa said that she met Marlene before, but like I said previously, she denied the visit to her home on April 23rd. However, detectives were not convinced of her story, so they subpoenaed medical records and took DNA samples from Clarissa and the baby over the course of the following few days. And like I said, DNA testing showed that Giovanni Lopez, the husband of Marlene, was the baby's father, and Clarissa was not the baby's mother. The thing is though, that even before May the 7th, when the friend told police about the Facebook chats, Marlene's family already told police about Clarissa. According to Jacobita Cortez, a pastor of a Chicago church, Marlene's husband actually tried to report Marlene as missing as soon as he didn't know anything about her, but police told him to return in 72 hours. Seeing that, they were getting no help from the police, the family hired the private investigator who actually was the one who found Marlene's car close to Clarissa's home, and then I assume that he contacted the police. Although later than it should have been, crime lab staff searched Clarissa's home after obtaining a search warrant. In the house, investigators found cleaning supplies and bleach, in addition to burnt clothes and blood on the living room, bathroom, and hallway floors. Marlene's body was discovered in the trash can in the backyard, along with additional evidence and the cable used to strangle her. According to police, Desiree admitted to helping her mother kill Marlene after the medical examiner determined that Marlene had been strangled. It's believed that Clarissa wanted to raise Marlene's baby as her own. Clarissa and Desiree were charged with Marlene's murder. In November, Desiree, Clarissa's daughter, actually gave birth to her own baby. On May 16, 2019, hours before the charges were announced, Marlene's father was critical of police efforts, saying that he didn't think the department gave enough attention early on to the disappearance because of the family's immigrant background and because they were undocumented. "We came to this country to give a good life for my daughter," Arnulfo Ochoa said outside the Cook County Medical Examiner's office, where he had gone to view his daughter. "We just want justice for what they did for my daughter." Later, at a police news conference, officials were pressed by reporters to explain why detectives weren't able to figure out more quickly what happened to Marlene. And this might come as a shock to you, but this is what Brandon Dinihan, Deputy Chief of Detectives, said. He said that he understood everyone looking back and playing armchair quarterback. It's like all these red flags that happened on the 23rd of April. But these defendants also were not that wise. I mean, the body's in the garbage can on the premises with a murder weapon inside, and we were still able to get it that much later. And that's what he said. And that's what he said in the press conference. Can I just say that I think that the police was a bit too cocky, to say the least, in this case. Just at the beginning of this year, Desiree Figueroa pleaded guilty to one count of first-degree murder. She also agreed to testify against her mother Clarissa in exchange for a 30-year sentence. It's been recommended for her to be sentenced to 30 years, but her sentencing won't happen until after her mother's trial. The Figueroas had already been indicted on multiple counts including murder, kidnapping, dismembering a body, and concealing a homicide. Clarissa's boyfriend, Piotr Bobek, also pleaded guilty in 2023 to one count of obstruction of justice for helping cover up the murders. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison, but he was released after being given credit for already spending 3 years and 8 months in jail. Shortly after the baby was cut from Marlene's dying body, Clarissa's boyfriend, Piotr, sought custody in support of Clarissa's plan to falsely raise the baby as her own. The scheme led to over a month of confusion before DNA tests proved baby Hadiel's true identity. So, you might be wondering, how was the baby when he was removed from the womb? Well, sadly, the baby was really badly affected by the lack of oxygen when Clarissa Figueroa brutally cut baby Hadiel from Marlene's womb as she lay dying in April 2019. The premature newborn was immediately at risk. Deprived of oxygen during the attack, the baby showed grave neurological impairment. Rushed to the hospital where Marlene's killers tried claiming him as Clarissa's baby, Yadil clung to life supported by machines. Once uncovered as Marlene's biological son, his true family took over the care as the newborn fought through infection and feeding issues related to his prematurity. After initially showing slight signs of improvement, baby Giovanni Hadiel Lopez, who spent his short life on support machines, sadly died on Friday morning, the 14th of June 2019, in his father's arms, according to a statement from Julie Contreras, a spokeswoman for the families of Lopez and Marlene Ochoa Lopez. He passed away due to a severe brain injury.
It's been 4 years to the day since Marlene Ochoa Lopez was viciously murdered in a case that shook Chicago and beyond. Today, a group gathered here at this mural honoring her life and her baby boy's life, who also died, as they made a call for justice.
We're here in remembrance of a great mother.
19-year-old Marlene Ochoa Lopez, a beloved mother and wife, murdered in 2019 at 9 months pregnant. Her body later found in a trash bin.
How does a father explain that a mother was brutally murdered with a baby being ripped out of her womb?
Her unborn baby boy, Giovanni Yadiel Lopez, cut from her womb later, dying from the brain injuries he suffered.
And I was there in the hospital. I held the baby, I saw the baby, and I've been in a lot of cases. This is probably one of the most heart-wrenching cases.
Pastor Julie Contreras and attorney Frank Avila says Ochoa Lopez's older son Joshua is perhaps the living victim most impacted by this crime. Contreras says he's asking the difficult question no one should ever have to explain to a child about how his mom died.
4 years of anguish, suffering, and pain. And today we have a 7-year-old child that needs to know why his mother is gone.
Contreras, community leaders, legal counsel, and family of the slain mother gathering to call for accountability while honoring her life and Giovanni's.
I want him to know that he should be proud of his mother, because today she has all of us standing here asking for justice for her life.
Prosecutors say Ochoa Lopez was lured to the home of Clarissa Figueroa under the impression she was picking up free baby items. It was then, they say, she was strangled to death and her baby boy was ripped from her womb, an act her then 24-year-old daughter Desiree Figueroa is also accused of taking part in.
There are 2 women that have given their testimony and admittance to the crime, the horrific crime that we not only know in Chicago, not only across this nation, but around the world.
The mother-daughter duo charged with her murder still haven't been tried. Another defendant, Peter Bobak, accepting a guilty plea earlier this year on the reduced charge of obstructing justice.
I think that was insufficient justice.
The 44-year-old was initially charged with concealing a homicide and obstructing justice, accused of cleaning up the crime scene and taking part in a cover-up, claiming the infant was his son in an effort to get charitable donations.
My understanding, he's been released, and he's also now out of the country. I mean, he's been deported.
Advocates say until a murder conviction happens, there is no true justice or way to begin the healing process.
I can't bring them back from the dead, but I hope to bring them some justice.
Now, since this happened 4 years ago, Ochoa Lopez's family and attorney has been highly critical of Christ Advocates' handling of the case. Avila says they are pursuing a civil suit against both the hospital and the defendants in the case. Reporting live tonight in Pilsen, Courtney Spinelli, WGN News.
Also, shockingly, Marlene's and the baby's family were speaking out about the thousands of dollars worth of bills sent to them by Advocate Christ Medical Center in Oak Lawns, Illinois, where the baby was cared for before his death. The family's attorney, Frank Avila, told the Chicago Sun-Times that they were billed over $300,000 despite the hospital telling the family they would waive those costs. In invoices, the baby was also named Figueroa Boy, referring to the last name of the woman accused of killing Marlene and her baby. The boy's family was told in statements that if they didn't pay the balance, they would be referred to an external collection agency. In a statement provided to Insider, the hospital said, "We have had discussions with the family regarding inadvertent billing and we regret this error. We take our obligation to patient privacy seriously and therefore are unable to comment further regarding care, services or billing." Of course they can't comment further. The family's attorney described the situation as atrocious in an interview with People. "It's hard for me to understand the lack of humanity," he said, also saying that the incident re-victimized Marlene's husband, 20-year-old Giovanni. The impact of losing 19-year-old Marlene Ochoa Lopez and baby Hadiel deeply traumatized their tight-knit family. Marlene's husband, Giovanni Lopez, speaks of overwhelming grief and anger at the unjust loss of his vibrant wife and his unborn child's abduction. Marlene's mother, Gloria Ochoa, broke into agonized sobs when she saw her daughter's body. She speaks of ongoing trauma and emptiness without Marlene's laughter filling family gatherings. Marlene's own dreams of becoming an engineer while raising... Oh. Flies seem to love me. Where did you come from? Marlene's own dreams of becoming an engineer while raising a son beside the husband she wed as a teenager and a 3-year-old son all ended abruptly one April afternoon. Marlene's father and husband held a vigil in June 2020 to honor the baby Giovanni Hadiel Lopez, who died 2 months after being ripped from his mother's womb in 2019. Julie Contreras, a family spokeswoman and pastor of United Methodist Church, called for acts of kindness to honor him. Quote, "We gather today to give honor to a baby who died so unjustly. Instead of talking about the negative, our nation and our city have suffered so much from COVID and the civil unrest. We want to heal." Julie said that the system, including the police department, failed the family during the search of Marlene. After the sidewalk vigil, the family delivered meals to the 8 district police officers to help. Julie also said, "We are planting a seed of kindness and we hope that it can grow and other families in search of loved ones don't suffer in the same ways. We want kindness so our community heals." And that's why I'm not going to give my opinions or comments around this case because like I just read the statement, the family, they just want kindness, and so I don't want to stir anything, but you guys please let me know what do you guys think in the comment section down below. For now, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.